What's going on, my fellow Guardians? Your dude Sly here, and welcome back to another Destiny 2 Root of Nightmares raid guide. So far we've discovered the 2 secret chests and conquered the first few encounters. Now we're heading to the man himself, Nezarec. So in this video, let's break down everything that you need to know about this fight, the various positions and jobs to do, what subclasses and weapons work best, and the various mechanics throughout the fight. Once we do, we'll put all of it into motion and then put an end to Nezarec. Now, just a quick disclaimer here, this guide was created the first day the raid was out, and I'm using gameplay from day 1 contest mode, and a little from the day after. Contest mode is, of course, much harder than the normal version of the raid, and my team and I discovered the mechanics and came up with this strategy ourselves. So while this guide will teach you the mechanics and my way to deal with them, more than likely a better way to do things will pop up in the future that will make this fight much easier and faster. So just know that while this strategy might and probably will change, the fight's mechanics will not. And that's what this guide ultimately is here for. So with that disclaimer out of the way, thank you all so much for watching, and let's get this bad boy started. So starting off with subclasses, like the planets encounter, this fight is really all about boss damage. However, Nezarec gets a bit wily with his void shite fringing it all over the place, so you will need at least 1, preferably 2 warlocks to make things easier. You can do this with void titan rally barricades if you really wish to, the ones that gave you overshields, but warlock wells are just hard to beat. So for warlocks, I would run 2 solar well warlocks with starfire protocol builds. However, if you're doing the job of taking Nezarec's gaze or Nezarec's aggro, then having the Phoenix chest piece might be a better option, as you can get your well back through killing adds. This way you'll have it for protection and for damage, but on normal mode, it's really not that big of a deal. So I personally recommend starfire, but if you are having trouble, feel free to switch over to Phoenix chest piece and spec out for survivability. Alright, so moving on to Titans, there are a couple of routes you can go here. One, of course, is the solar option, speccing out for survivability with hammers, lorely helms, and sunspots. But running Void or Arc subclasses can also be a great option. For extra DPS, you can go Thunder Crash with Falling Star to do extra damage. But Void is actually a good option for not only ad clear, and a Titan bubble, of course, is always a welcome sight during damage or is a safe haven from the boss or adds. But if you wish to go the support route, running Banner Shield with Ursa Furiosa can also be pretty beneficial. The 40% damage increase is quite powerful. And of course, Banner Shield protects your fire team, so it's a dual purpose super that actually works out very nicely for this fight. You can even go with Strand and then suspend everything in front of you if you're an ad clearer. Every Titan subclass pretty much has a place in this fight. As for hunters, if you're running plates, I would recommend Void Tether with Invis, just so that way you can get things done quicker. Tether does a great job for extra damage during boss fight, and going Invis, of course, works great if you have to jump over a group of adds, or if you find yourself next to a Colossus. If there are extra hunters, then you can run Blade Barrage or even Golden Gun with Nighthawk if your group is using a Divinity or Titan's Banner Shield. Now, I wouldn't recommend Strand or Arc due to Nezarec's suppression ability. Also, when he teleports, he can kind of shrug off stuck projectiles like Arc Staff or Anarchy. So if you plan on using a solar super, make sure you wait until the boss is tethered or debuffed by grenades or behind her banner shield. It makes a big difference. Double tethers, of course, that's always a good option as well. Alright, so next up, let's talk a little bit about weapons. Now, there's quite the debate raging on about which weapons work best. Honestly, guys, there are a lot of weapons that will work for this fight. The best damage weapons right now seem to be Two-Tailed Fox with a Catalyst or Rockets with Chill Clip, Frenzy, Vorpal, all the usual damage perks. Be sure to have one person use Gallarhorn for Wolfpack rounds if you guys go the rocket route. But another winner comes in the form of an old school light machine gun. Thunderlord is topping the damage charts with its Catalyst reloading every time it shoots down a lightning bolt. I've seen Divinity and Sleepers do a ton of damage as well. Now on day 1, I was actually main ad clear on the left hand side, and there's hardly any cover on the left. So I needed something with a little bit of range, and with the terrible ammo economy, I need something with quite a few shots. So even though I wasn't quite keeping up with rockets, I was only really behind in damage by quite a small margin. Now on normal mode, LMGs with a target lock, those work just as well, especially if you're a Titan with Actium War Rig. There are plenty of good options to use, and they will all beat the boss. However, if you're looking for the best damage, Rockets or Thunderlord are going to be your best bet. Just be sure to stack your weapon surge mods and always apply buffs and debuffs whenever possible. As for special weapons, wave frame grenade launchers or salvage or salvo works very nicely here. The new wave frame grenade launcher harsh language with destabilizing rounds is a beast while running a void build, especially a void warlock and a void LMG. Now there is one job during this fight where a glaive comes in handy, and we'll talk about that next if you wish to go that route. So with that out of the way, guys, let's quickly go over the map, and then we'll talk about mechanics. Now, this map is really quite basic, y'all. It's pretty much just a simple square. The boss has his pedestal right in the middle at the very front of the map, and you can basically divide this map up into 3 areas from left to right. Left, middle, and right. Group of adds and a colossus will spawn in all 3 locations. They first start off on the left and right, and then a couple seconds later, they spawn in the middle. Now, there are plates on the left and right sides of the map. Light plates on the left, darkness plates on the right. The rally banner and both home plates are at the back of the map where you entered. So it's best to split up like this. Have one person on main ad control left, one person ad control middle, one person main ad control on right, one light plate runner on the left, one dark plate runner on the right, and then one player who takes Nezarec's aggro. If you're a player taking Nezarec's aggro, or gaze as I like to call it, from back in the old Kingsfall days, he will constantly chase you and try to slam you with its attack, and he'll also fling some purple shit your way. Now, if you have a good glaive, you can pretty much just block all of his attacks with it. I saw a pretty cool thing on Twitter from Cool Guy on YouTube showing off how this worked, and it worked so well it was kind of dumb. Like, he just pretty much sat there blocking with the glaive, shot a few ads, blocked it the whole time, and he really didn't have to do much at all. So if you're taking his aggro, I recommend a legendary glaive. All you have to do, like I said, kill a few ads now and again to keep your shield up, depending on your glaive, but it works quite nicely. A sword will also do as well, but it's not really worth your heavy slot, so just a helpful tip. Alright, Guardians, and finally, let's get into the mechanics of this fight. Now, it's pretty much the exact same thing that you've been doing with the plates, but now you have a boss wipe mechanic. So the idea here is to have both runners activate all the plates as fast as possible. Once all plates on the left and right are activated, it'll be time for damage. However, it's not always possible to grab all the plates on both sides before the wipe mechanic comes into play. So what happens is that Nezarec's wipe mechanic will come up in the form of 2 different energy types. You have a light and a dark. In order to tell which one it is, the person who is taking Nezarec's gaze needs to first shoot both of Nezarec's shoulders. Once they do, Nezarec will kind of let off this mini explosion around him. The explosion will either be white or dark orange in color. If it's white, then you know you need light protection. If it's dark orange, then you need darkness protection. However, only the opposite plate runners can call up that protection. So for example, if Nezarec shows he's building up dark energy, then the light plate runner will need to grab the field of light buff and head over to one of the darkness plates. The opposite is true if Nezarec is showing he's building up light energy. Now, in the direct center of the map, there are 4 plates in kind of a square configuration. I like to call them L1, L2, R1, R2. These are the plates where protection will be put down if it needs to happen. It's also where you're going to be doing damage. So if the plate runners cannot activate all of the light and dark plates, they will have to only activate 3 or 4 of them, and then use the rest of the time to put up a protection plate. This plate needs to be called out by the runner so that everyone can come and get the buff and be protected by Nezarec's wipe mechanic. He will start to do this kind of shimmering or glowing thing for a few seconds before he wipes everyone. Players need to be on the way to the protective plate before this happens. Now, you don't need to stand on the plate the entire time. Just jump through it and just keep on moving. Pop in and out every once in a while to top up your protection. You can pretty much have 15 seconds, run around a bit, come back, top it up, get 15 seconds again. Do not stand still, as you might get smashed by the boss. Now, once a wipe mechanic happens, everyone then resets, and the plate runners then finish activating the rest of the plates. So, for example, if each side activated 4 on the light side, 4 on the dark side, then all you have to do now is activate the other remaining 2 plates on each side, and then it is damage time. The cool thing here is that you have enough time at the very start of the fight that you can get all 6 plates on both sides and then instantly do damage. If your runners use eager edge swords or grapple and are fast enough, you can pretty much skip the wipe mechanic every single time and do damage back to back to back. And with normal mode, 1 to 2 phasing is easily possible. So this boss fight can become a very short encounter if you do it correctly. However, it's not the easiest thing to do to get all 6 plates every single round, and most groups can activate all plates the very first time at the beginning of the fight, but then have to break it up the second time around. If your DPS isn't good enough, you'll have to do it for a third time, and then that's all you really need to do. So that's pretty much how the fight works. At the very beginning, the left and right plates, they get all 6 right in a row. You'll see the boss start to shimmer, and by the time he actually calls his wipe mechanic, both left and right sides should have all 6 plates activated. You guys meet up for damage. Now once you guys do damage and then you reset back into your respective sides, the next time you're not going to have enough time to get all 6 plates. So the best thing to do is only grab 4 plates on the left, 4 plates on the right, and then have the person who takes the aggro call out which energy he saw, coming off of Nezarec. The plate runners, while activating 4 plates each, then listen to see which energy was called out and decide who has to create a Darkness's Refuge protection plate so that the team can survive the wipe mechanic. Once again, if Nezarec shows light energy after shoulders are popped, then the dark plate runner needs to obtain Flux of Darkness and use it on either L1 or L2 plates. If darkness energy is called, then the light plate runner needs to obtain Field of Light and use it on a dark plate, either R1 or R2. This of course creates Darkness's Refuge protection buff and allows the team to stay safe. Be sure to call out which plate has protection the moment you have it figured out. Once the wipe mechanic goes away, everyone splits back up into their respective sides. The runners finish the last 2 plates and then it's damage. If you need to, then you can do it one more time, but most of the time on normal mode, you can kill him in 2 phases. If you mess up a little bit, you can do it in 3, but just remember you're going to have to get protection again, and that's usually where things go wrong, if they do go wrong. The last thing to talk about is something called Nezarec's Hatred. Once the player who pops Nezarec's shoulders calls out which energy type Nezarec is building, then they need to wait a few seconds and then shoot Nezarec's chest. If you do not, Nezarec will start snapping his fingers and giving everyone who's not behind cover in direct line of sight something called Nezarec's Hatred. This will suppress you and cause you to do very little weapon or super damage, and it'll boop you like those Scion boops, pretty much back to back to back until the countdown is over. If you're a runner, this is like your worst nightmare, so the gaze holder needs to shoot Nezarec's chest and take his aggro so this does not happen. Just lead Nezarec in some circles, or like I said earlier, block with the glaive until the plate runners do their jobs. In the meantime, everyone else is taking out groups of adds, and especially the Colossuses that spawned on the left, middle, and right. Once all the plates light up, this sort of explosion will happen, and then it's time for damage. Now, I personally think it's best to do damage on what I call the R2 plate. In that square kind of configuration I talked about earlier in the video, L1, L2, R1, R2, the R2 plate, or the triangle plate as some groups call it, they have a really easy place to do damage at the front of that plate. Other plates have columns or rocks or hell even plants along the sides, and if Nezarec dances around the plates, sometimes he will be behind these rocks or plants and you can't shoot through them and it'll end up messing up your damage. If you stick towards the front of the R2 plate on the triangle, 90% of the time he will stay right in front of you or a little bit to the left or the right. However, if you put your well too far back on the R2 plate, then he'll try to get close to you, and he'll do that by walking around the plate to get on the backside. So be sure to put your well towards the front of the R2 triangle plate, and then he'll be in front of you the entire time. This will make damage much easier. Once the plate runners do their things and all 6 plates on the left and all 6 plates on the right are lit up, like I said, it'll be time for damage. Everyone meets up on the R2 plate every single time. Warlocks, be sure to coordinate wells. Put one down for your team to stand in while you wait for damage, and then make sure you have one a second time while you're doing damage. Or if you're a Titan using a Void subclass and you have your banner shield, make sure you use that after the well is up. That will also block Nezarec's damage while giving everybody a 40% buff, and that'll be just as good as a well. Now while Nezarec is looking all sparkly, you'll know it's time to do damage as this beam of light strikes Nezarec and sort of stuns him. Once this happens, he will no longer be immune, and it is time for DPS. Just go to town with rockets or LMGs, and that's really about it. If you don't finish him and get him to his last stand, all you have to do is pretty much just repeat the same thing you just did. But if you do get him to the last stand, be sure to save a super or a few rockets. Once he hits 0, congrats my friends, you have just beat the Root of Nightmares raid boss Nezarec, the final god of pain. Nezarec is actually one of the easier bosses in any of the Destiny raids. He did hit pretty hard on contest mode, but on normal it is pretty easy. So once you and your team get the flow down, you will be taking this dude out in no time. But yeah, that's about it, Guardians. That's the final boss fight. I hope your loot is plentiful and full of nothing but weapons, because the armor is absolutely hideous. As always, I hope that this guide was not only easy to follow, but I hope that it was helpful enough for you to get your first clear. As for me, I'm out of here, y'all. Thank you all so much for watching, and of course for supporting my channel, Sly Nation. Be sure to smack the thumbs up or down if you liked, loved, or hated this video, and if you wish to get in touch, business or otherwise, feel free to hit me up anytime, y'all. SlyNationGaming67@gmail.com, or check me out over on the socials at Sly_Nation on Twitter, Sly Nation Gaming on good old Facebook. Take care, y'all, and subscribe for more Destiny 2 secrets, raid guides, and videos coming out here soon. But until then, this is your dude Sly, and I'll catch you all next time.